Here's a wild idea. What if the thing that forces India into its biggest investment boom ever is a war it has absolutely nothing to do with? Morgan Stanley, one of the most closely watched investment banks on the planet, just upgraded its forecast for how much of India's economy is being reinvested back into building new capacity. They're now calling 37.5% of GDP by 2030, up from 36.5% before. 1%, right? Sounds tiny. But at India's scale, that 1% translates into an extra 66 lakh crore rupees, roughly $800 billion, in cumulative new investments over the next 5 years. That's the first infographic you're looking at right now, and it's not a small number. That's a generational shift in where money is going. So what lit this fuse? The West Asia conflict. See, India imports 85% of its crude oil and 50% of its natural gas from global markets, with a massive chunk either routed through or priced against West Asian supply chains. That second number, 85% crude oil dependence, is the core vulnerability here, and it's staring India right in the face. Think about it like this. Imagine you run a restaurant, and 85% of your ingredients come from one supplier who keeps going on strike. At some point, you stop filing complaints and start building your own farm. That is exactly what India is being forced to do right now. Nearly 60% of this new Capex, that's capital expenditure, money going into long-term assets like power plants, factories, and infrastructure, is being funneled into energy transition, defense manufacturing, and data centers. Those aren't random bets. Those are direct answers to India's three biggest weak spots: energy dependence, security gaps, and digital sovereignty. A geopolitical crisis thousands of kilometers away is quietly becoming the single biggest catalyst for India's domestic investment boom. But before you get too excited, this story has a catch. Because while India is building, it's also bleeding. And in the next segment, we're getting into exactly where the pain is coming from. So 66 lakh crore rupees is coming. The real question is, who actually catches it? Let's start with defense. India spends about 2% of its GDP on defense right now, and that number is targeted to climb to 2.5% by FY 2031. Half a percentage point sounds like nothing, until you do the math at India's GDP scale. We're talking tens of thousands of crores in extra annual spending, and the government wants that money going to domestic manufacturers, not imports. Hal Bell, Larsen and Toubro, they're directly in the crosshairs of this surge. And if you supply components, software or services to any of these firms, or even their tier 2 vendors, your order books could look very different by 2027. Then there's renewable energy. Oil dependence is India's Achilles heel, so building domestic clean energy isn't just a green goal anymore. It's a national security play. NTPC, Adani Green, Tata Power are set to absorb massive capex here. But the downstream ripple hits smaller businesses too. Solar installers, EPC contractors, battery storage firms, logistics companies hauling heavy equipment to remote project sites. And then, surprisingly, data centers. Global companies spooked by geopolitical chaos are hunting for stable, neutral countries to park their digital infrastructure. India fits that brief perfectly. Large talent pool, growing internet base, relative geopolitical calm. Operators like Churless and NetMagic are already expanding fast. And the ripple touches real estate, power supply, cybersecurity, IT services, the works. Now look at this trend line on screen. Defense, energy, and digital infrastructure capex all pointing the same direction, up and steeply. On the market side, capital goods, infrastructure, and defense stocks are expected to rally on long-term earnings visibility. Bond yields may tick up slightly as growth prospects improve, but foreign inflows chasing India's supply chain pivot should keep them from spiking hard. If you've been watching defense or energy stocks wondering whether the rally has legs, this pipeline says yes, it does. But here's the catch. Not everything about this story is a green flag. Up next, we look at the risks that could throw a wrench in all of this. But here's the catch. All of that upside, it comes with a leak in the roof. Think about it this way. You're building a brand new wing on your house. Modern, like future-ready the works. But your roof is still leaking. The new wing is the $800 billion capex push. The leaking roof is India importing 85% of its crude oil. You can do both at the same time, sure. But that leak, it creates real pressure on your budget, your timeline, and honestly, your peace of mind. So what does that look like in practice? If the West Asia conflict escalates, and that's a genuine if, not a certainty, and oil crosses $100 a barrel and stays there, India's import bill balloons. The rupee gets squeaky. The fiscal deficit widens. That's the gap between what the government earns and what it spends. And when that gap widens, the government borrows more, which pushes interest rates up. Higher rates mean costlier loans for your business, working capital, machinery, even your employees' home loans. All of it gets more expensive. That's the infographic you should screenshot. Oil above $100 a barrel sustained is not just a headline. It's a direct hit to your cost of capital. Now here's where it gets interesting. The capex multiplier works in the exact opposite direction. Every rupee the government drops into a defense factory or a solar plant ripples outward. Jobs, supplier orders, logistics contracts, retail spending downstream. Morgan Stanley's call that India's investment rate hits 37.5% of GDP by FY 2030 is essentially a structured bet that this multiplier effect wins the arm wrestle against oil risk over the medium term. And for entrepreneurs and business owners, the 5-year window to FY 2030 is the one to actually mark on your calendar. Energy transition, defense manufacturing, digital infrastructure. These are the sectors getting the most capital. The procurement pipelines, the hiring demand, the ancillary opportunities. They're all clustering right here. You don't need to be Hal or Adani Green to benefit. You just need to ask yourself one honest question. Am I a supplier, a service provider, or a talent pool for the industries about to receive 66 lakh crore rupees? If the answer is yes, or even could be yes, the time to position is right now, not after the contracts are already signed. The opportunity is real. The risks are real. The question is just which side of the trade you want to be on. Follow us for more updates like this. Thanks for watching. And don't forget to follow us on YouTube, Instagram, and X.